Welcome to Neon Cobra. Let's kick into it. This week, we are going to show you how to resize a virtual machine in Azure. Now, while this seems like a very straightforward process, and it quite honestly is, there are some caveats and things you need to understand before you go through with this. So with that, we're going to hop right into the portal, and I'll walk you through some of the options. So what you should be seeing right now is a virtual machine. We have a standard D4S V5 in the US East location, which you will see right here. So let's say we want to swap this out to a lower, say, D2S V5, or maybe even one of the brand new V6s. To accomplish this, you'd want to go over to Availability plus Scale and choose Size. What this will do is it will provide you a list of the general recommendations from Microsoft, right? Um, what is interesting about this is likely the recommendations won't necessarily fit your workload. It could be just based on what is highly available and based on some recommendations on how your workload is currently performing. I generally recommend understanding what virtual machine you want to get to before you go into this panel, because you may be diverted and you may make some decisions or changes that you're not quite ready for. Right. Certain areas that may impact you, right? Like you might come in here and look at a B series example and be like, oh, that's a great savings. Let's move to this one instead. Not realizing that you're going to have, burstable issues or CPU performance issues depending on general workload. Now, to Microsoft's credit, they've started adding areas where it says ideal for workloads that do not need to do continuous or full CPU performance. But usually what ends up happening is you come in here and start looking at cost, right? And it will have a lower cost because of the licensing requirements and just the general underlying architecture. So when you come in here, make sure you already know kind of what you want to align on. So this is a D4S V5, and that is going to be Intel architecture. I want to go to a D4 or D2S V6. So I will do D2S at the top, and you'll see V5, V5, V4. So it's quite possible the V6s aren't in general availability, or I need to request a quota increase. Now, we will talk about what that looks like in another video. So when you're coming in, you're trying to determine what you want to do, understanding what you can actually align on and where you can go is very important. So other limitations, you cannot move a virtual machine from a system without local storage or ephemeral storage to ephemeral storage, right? So if you're on, say, a D2S V3, that has local attached storage available on it. So there was a change in nomenclature in virtual machines from the V3s, V4s, and V5s. So the V3s and earliers always had local storage attached. Once you hit V4, they split that those criteria out. So systems with temp storage attached would be a D2DS, right? D for direct attached storage is what I've always said. So if you had that from a V3, you need to go to a D2DS. If I wanted to go from a D2S to a D2DS, I would have to rebuild the virtual machine. So you'd uncouple the virtual disk, spin a new one, and clone it up accordingly. So with that, let's just say we want to downsize it from a D2S V5. You're going to go choose the VM type you would like and choose Resize. Now, this is going to restart the virtual machine. And this is really important to understand, because if you do this during production hours, you're about to get an angry phone call. So a lot of times you'll either want to do it after hours or get a maintenance window and either shut it down ahead of time or do what we just did. And then Microsoft will safely shut down the virtual machine, resize, and bring it back online. Some general tips and tricks. If you're very concerned, make sure you provide a snapshot or have active backups on the system. This is a fairly benign process, but with anything technical, anytime you're making changes, always make sure you have a safety net in play. Make sure if you're looking at the recommendations, Microsoft does a pretty good job for identifying whether you can run on that virtual machine or not, but you do have to take into account certain items like your IO requirements. If this is a heavy duty file server and you're moving from, say, a 16 core down to a 2 core, your IO or your max IOPS is going to take a heavy hit. If you didn't notice through the video, the D4S had about 6,800 or 6,400 rather. IO going down to the D2 is a 3750. So while I'm saving money, I may be hampering workloads elsewhere. So fairly straightforward. You'll see that now it is completed. It is successfully resized. If you come back to the overview and refresh this page, you will see it is now sized down to a D2S. Funny enough, it hasn't updated this half. So this is probably just a visual error. it will eventually update accordingly. And this system is currently reconnecting. So then you should be able to come in and see boot diagnostics. And if we're lucky, in a couple of minutes, we will see the screenshot of the login screen. So that is it. That is how you would resize a virtual machine. Again, make sure we're sizing to something that is appropriate. Final thing I will say for considerations, pay attention to your reserved instancing, right? If you forget there was a reservation for this D4S and you swap down to a D2, you will be paying for more of a reservation than you likely need to, right? Even though it will right size down and protect the D2 because of the way it does pattern matching, you'll be paying for an extra D2, if you will, for no reason. So make sure we make those changes and make those edits accordingly. So with that, we'll catch you next time.